They think silence is weakness. They think calm means submission. But that's because they've never met someone who fights with peace instead of chaos. You don't yell. You don't chase. You don't explain. And that terrifies them. Because for the first time, they can't find a way in. There's something they can't stand about you anymore. It's not your words. It's not your strength. It's the quiet, the stillness, the way you stop feeding their storm. See, toxic people don't fear confrontation. They feed on it. They love the argument, the tension, the emotional tug of war. They love watching you react because every reaction gives them proof that they still control you. But when you go silent, when you stop engaging, stop defending, stop explaining, their game collapses. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't play anymore. Your silence steals their oxygen because manipulation needs noise. It needs chaos, confusion, and constant fixing. It needs you to care enough to try and make sense of it all. And when you stop doing that, you become unpredictable, untouchable, unbothered. That's what they fear most. Not losing you, but losing their ability to control how you feel about them. Toxic people crave emotional dominance. It's not about love. It's about power. They measure their worth by how easily they can make someone bend. So when you stop bending, when you stand there calm, clear-eyed, and silent, they start to panic because you've taken away the one thing that validates their ego, your reaction. They'll test your silence at first. They'll poke at your boundaries. They'll say things just to get under your skin. They'll send the innocent message. They'll post the cryptic story. They'll tell mutual friends things they know will make their way back to you. Why? Because they need proof that they still matter. They can't stand not knowing what you think, not hearing your defense, not watching you spin in confusion. Your silence makes them face themselves, and they hate what they see. You'll notice the shift. At first, they'll act unbothered. They'll say, I don't care anymore. They'll pretend they're happier without you. They'll even try to make you jealous. But behind the performance, they're losing grip because silence doesn't give them closure. It gives them reflection, and reflection is their worst nightmare. See, silence is a mirror, and when they look into it, they're forced to see the truth, their manipulation, their guilt, their insecurities, everything they worked so hard to project onto you. They can't project anymore because you're not standing there catching it. So they start to turn on themselves. They question why you're so calm. They wonder who you're talking to. They start obsessing over how you could move on so quietly, because in their world, control equals importance. And you've just proven that peace is more powerful than control. You'll know your silence is working when they start trying to redefine the narrative. They'll tell others, you changed, that you think you're better, that you cut them off for no reason. But that's not truth. That's survival. They're trying to make sense of losing access to the person who always understood them, even when they were cruel. You. They'll miss the version of you who overexplained, who justified, who apologized just to keep the peace, who believed love could fix dysfunction. That version fed their illusion of control. But now, your silence breaks it. They'll call your calm cold. They'll say you've become heartless. But deep down, they know you've just become free. Freedom looks like distance. It looks like not reacting. It looks like smiling when they expected you to fall apart. And that's what terrifies them, because they realize you don't need them to validate who you are anymore. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to be understood. You just need peace. And that peace is something they can't manipulate. They used to know your triggers. They used to know exactly what to say, to make you spiral, to make you prove your worth, to make you chase. But when you've healed, Their tricks lose meaning. Their words lose weight. Their silence loses power. And that's when fear sets in. Not yours, theirs. Because they realize their influence died quietly, without warning, without closure, without drama, just gone. Toxic people can't stand being forgotten. They survive on being remembered as the villain, the victim, the one who changed your life. But when you stop remembering them, when you stop replaying the story, they fade into irrelevance. And irrelevance is what they fear most. You've probably noticed it. How they try to provoke you when you're peaceful, how they get uncomfortable when you stay calm, how they twist kindness into weakness and silence into guilt. It's not because you're wrong. It's because your energy no longer feeds them. You're no longer emotionally accessible to their chaos, and that feels like rejection to someone addicted to control. That's why they'll say things like, "You've changed. You're distant. You think you're better now." They'll say anything to get a reaction, any reaction, because reaction means connection, and connection means control. But you're not giving them that anymore. You're showing them that silence isn't distance, it's protection. That detachment isn't indifference, it's healing. That peace isn't weakness, it's power. Every time you don't respond, you're teaching them a lesson. No argument ever could. They can't shake you anymore. They can't define you anymore. They can't reach the version of you they once had access to. And that's the moment they start to fear you. Not because you're cruel, but because you're calm. Because calm exposes chaos. Peace exposes insecurity. And silence exposes truth. That's the power of it. That's the thing they can't handle. Your silence forces them to face what your words once protected them from, the reflection of who they really are. At first, they'll think your silence is temporary. They'll assume it's a phase, a reaction, not a transformation. They've seen you hurt before, and every time you came back, you always did, because you cared, because you believed in giving people chances, because you thought if you just loved them enough, they'd finally change. But this time is different. This time, you didn't go quiet out of pain. You went quiet out of clarity. And clarity is terrifying to people who depend on confusion. Your silence doesn't just withhold words, it withholds access. It withholds the emotional supply they once took for granted. It's like pulling the plug from their favorite power source, and they can feel the lights going out. At first, they'll underestimate it. They'll think, she'll break soon. He'll text again. They always do. But days pass, then weeks, and your silence doesn't break. It strengthens. That's when fear starts to creep in. Not the kind that screams, but the kind that sinks. Because they can feel it. The distance, the peace, the emotional detox that's finally begun. And it's not something they can manipulate anymore. They'll start to circle back. Maybe a hey, maybe a just checking in. Maybe they'll pretend to be curious about something random. It's never genuine. It's a test, a pull, a breadcrumb thrown to see if you'll bite. But you've seen this pattern before. And now you don't chase crumbs. When you've finally found your table, you don't reply out of resentment. You don't reply because you're done playing roles. You no longer need to explain your worth. You no longer crave their validation. You no longer believe that understanding them means saving them. You've learned something powerful. That silence can be love. The hard kind. The self-respect kind. They can't stand that because they used to read your emotions like a script. They knew every cue, every weakness, every word you'd use to justify their cruelty. Now the script is blank, and blank means they've lost control of the narrative. They'll rewrite it, of course. They'll say you became distant, that you stopped caring, that you think you're better now. But deep down, they know you simply woke up. And nothing scares a manipulator more than someone who's finally awake. You see, silence doesn't just protect you, it exposes them. Because when you stop explaining, they start revealing their insecurity, their guilt, their desperation to regain control. They'll do anything to fill the silence, argue with themselves in your absence, spin stories to feel important again. But you won't hear it, because your peace made you deaf to their chaos. There's a strange beauty in that stage. You start to realize you don't even want to be understood by them anymore, because understanding someone who thrives on confusion was never your job. It was your exhaustion. And for the first time, you can feel how heavy that was. The mental gymnastics, the constant self-doubt, the apologizing just to keep things calm. All of it gone. Because silence ended the performance. They'll test your boundaries one more time. They always do. They'll come back with a softer tone, a changed version of themselves, and words like, "I've been thinking a lot. I miss what we had. I realize now what I did wrong." And part of you, the part that still remembers how much you cared, will want to believe it. But your silence has taught you something words never could. That real change doesn't need an audience. If they truly changed, you wouldn't have to see it. You'd feel it. And you don't. You feel peace instead. That peace is what keeps them up at night, because they can't reach you anymore. Not emotionally, not mentally, not energetically. Your silence turned into a wall. They can't climb. They'll stare at it from a distance, wondering how you became so steady, so sure, so untouched by what once tore you apart. But they'll never understand that you didn't just stop talking. You started healing, and healing changes your energy in ways words never can. You start walking differently. You stop reacting to small things. You stop explaining your decisions. You stop giving emotional CPR to people who never learned to breathe on their own. And they can feel that withdrawal, that unspoken no to everything that once drained you. You used to pour your heart into chaos. Now you pour it into peace. And that shift in energy is what makes toxic people fear you most, because they realize something heartbreaking. You were never weak. You were invested. You were loyal. You were hopeful. And now, that same loyalty, hope, and energy are no longer theirs to drain. You've redirected it inward, toward healing, toward boundaries, toward the version of you they were never capable of appreciating. You'll notice the world feels quieter now. The noise that once consumed you, gone. The anxiety that lived in your chest, fading. The need to prove, explain, fix, gone. You realize that silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of peace. And peace is power, because peace cannot be manipulated. It cannot be argued with. It cannot be weaponized. It simply exists, strong, steady, and untouchable, just like you now. That's when the roles reverse. You used to chase understanding. Now they chase closure. You used to overthink your worth. Now they question their own. Because when someone can't break your silence, they start breaking under it. And you'll see it in the small things. The random message, the sudden kindness, the attempt to make you laugh again. It's not love. It's discomfort. They're trying to escape the reflection your calm created. And you? You're not even angry anymore. You're just done. Done losing sleep over people who don't know peace, unless they're destroying it. That's the highest form of strength. Not indifference, but detachment. Because detachment means you finally trust the silence. You trust that what's meant for you won't require chaos to stay, and what's not will destroy itself trying to. They start to realize something they never saw before. that silence isn't the absence of words. It's the presence of understanding. And that understanding, it changes everything. Because you no longer look at them with hope. You look at them with clarity. And clarity is something their illusions can't survive in. They use to confuse your empathy with weakness. They thought if they broke you down enough, you'd always come back, just to prove you still cared. But you stopped proving. You stopped chasing closure. In people who built their power on your confusion. And that's when they start to crumble. They'll remember the old you, the one who tried to explain feelings that were never respected, the one who showed up every time they disappeared, the one who apologized first because they hated seeing someone they loved pull away. They'll think of that version of you like a favorite song they can't listen to anymore because you've changed the station. Now, you don't give explanations. You give space. You don't prove your side. You let their silence speak for them. They thought they could control you through guilt, through half-hearted apologies, through moments of charm that made you doubt your own boundaries. But you've learned that guilt is just another leash, and silence is how you unclip it. There's something unsettling about calm energy to people who thrive on emotional chaos. Because when you stay grounded, you're not giving them something to climb. Your peace becomes a wall they can't scale, and they start trying harder, not out of love, but out of fear of losing relevance. They'll start mirroring your calm, pretending they've changed, just to get close enough to test if it's real. But you'll see through it this time, because real peace doesn't need performance. It doesn't need to be proven. It simply feels quiet. You used to think love meant fixing. Now you see love is supposed to feel safe. And if someone fears your boundaries, they were never looking for love. They were looking for control. You were their mirror, their reflection of stability, their emotional regulator, their balance. Now, without you, they're forced to face the chaos within themselves. And that's what your silence truly does. It reveals everything that was hiding behind the noise. They'll reach out one day, not because they miss you, but because they miss who they were. When you kept forgiving them, they'll use the same tone, the same little hey that once melted you. But this time, you'll read it differently. You'll see the manipulation in the softness, the fishing in the friendliness, the test in the timing. You'll know exactly what they're doing, and it won't even make you angry. It'll just make you sure. Because the more peaceful you become, the more you can see what chaos looks like. And the truth is, you can't unsee it. The charm doesn't work anymore. The guilt doesn't sting. The absence doesn't ache the same. You found something they can't reach. Stillness. And that stillness, it has gravity. You pull your energy back, and they start to feel the emptiness they once blamed you for creating. Now they're left talking to their own echo and realizing the problem was never your volume. It was their noise. You'll notice how the dynamic flips without warning. They start over-explaining. They start defending. They start trying to convince you of the very things they once denied. That's how you know your silence worked. Because silence is magnetic. It pulls truth out of hiding. They can't stand that you're not angry, that you don't need closure, that you're not trying to prove a point, because they built their power on your reactions. And now there's nothing left to grab onto. They'll think of all the times you argued, all the messages you wrote and deleted, all the nights you stayed awake, trying to make them understand your heart. And they'll realize too late that they were never fighting for you. They were fighting for control. And now, control doesn't exist here anymore. You'll start to see silence differently too. It's not loneliness. It's not disconnection. It's not avoidance. It's restoration. It's returning to yourself. It's hearing your own thoughts again, without their voice trying to rewrite them. It's peace, the kind you used to beg them to protect. But now, you protect it yourself. They'll replay every memory in their head, trying to find where they lost you. They'll think it was something you said, a single moment, a single choice. But it wasn't. It was accumulation. It was every lie dressed as love, every manipulation disguised as misunderstanding. Every time you had to explain what should have been obvious. And when you finally stopped, that was the moment. You disappeared from their control. It hits them quietly, too, like a slow echo in a hollow room. At first, they'll distract themselves. New faces, new attention. Anything to drown out the silence you left behind. But peace has a way of haunting the people who fear it. It always circles back. Late at night, when the noise fades, when the distractions stop working, when they realize the calm they mocked was the stability they secretly wanted. And that's when it breaks them. Not your silence, their reflection in it. You used to think closure would come from words. Now you see, it comes from silence that speaks truth. And the truth is, you were always too deep for their shallowness, too genuine for their performance, too loyal for their instability. They didn't lose you because you were too much. They lost you because you were finally enough for yourself. And now your silence says it all. It says, I see you, I understand you, but I no longer accept the version of love that hurts to hold. It says, I forgive you, but I'm gone. It says, I've learned how to love myself the way I tried to love you. And nothing terrifies toxic people more than someone who no longer needs their chaos to feel alive. Because silence isn't punishment, it's peace choosing itself. And peace choosing itself is the end of manipulation's reign. They never expected your silence to last this long. They thought it was just another reaction, a new tactic, a short-lived attempt to make them care. But it wasn't. This time, it wasn't about them at all. It was about you. You weren't waiting for them to notice the silence. You were learning to live inside it. And the longer you stayed there, the more you realized something sacred. Silence heals what noise destroys. You started hearing your own voice again, the one that got drowned out by their chaos, the one that whispered warnings you ignored, the one that told you, this isn't love. And for the first time, you listened. It's strange how quiet healing is. There's no applause, no grand revelation, just peace. Gentle, steady, like rain finally washing off the residue of everything that once burned. You stop explaining. You stop proving. You stop craving being seen. Because now, you see yourself. And in that stillness, something powerful happens. You stop vibrating on the frequency of pain. You stop attracting chaos disguised as connection. You stop mistaking intensity for love. You stop begging for peace from people who live off your anxiety. You start walking in calm. And calm always scares those who need control. Your silence starts teaching lessons you'll never need to speak. It teaches that your energy is sacred, that your peace has a price, that your attention is currency, and not everyone deserves to spend it. It teaches that you can be kind without being available, that you can forgive without giving access, that you can love without losing yourself. One day, they'll remember your silence differently, not as cold, not as cruel, but as the moment they lost access to someone who once saw the best in them, and they mistook it for weakness. They'll scroll through old messages, old photos, old memories, searching for the spark they used to drain instead of protect. And they'll realize something too late. You didn't just go silent. You evolved. You didn't disappear. You ascended. You'll notice your energy shifts in rooms. You speak softer but mean more. You say less but carry weight. You no longer chase connection. You attract it. Because healed energy doesn't beg, it draws. It doesn't prove, it knows. It doesn't explain, it is. And when people feel that kind of peace, they either rise to meet it or they run from it. Either way, you no longer chase them. Because when you master silence, you master detachment. And when you master detachment, you master peace. You stop reacting to manipulation. You start responding to alignment. You stop confusing attention with affection. You start craving consistency over chaos. You stop trying to be understood by people who misunderstand themselves. And that's when your life changes. Quietly, but completely. Because they can't touch you anymore. Not through guilt. Not through games. Not through pretending they've changed. You've outgrown the frequency of their control. You're tuned to something higher now. Clarity, peace, purpose. And that's not arrogance. That's evolution. So if you're still in that stage, if you're still tempted to respond, to explain, to prove, pause. You don't need to prove your peace to anyone. Just live it. You don't need to defend your silence. Just honor it. Because the right people will never fear your quiet. They'll feel safe in it. And maybe that's the real lesson in all of this. That silence was never about them fearing you. It was about you finally feeling you. Because when you stop chasing noise, you start hearing the truth. And the truth is, your peace isn't passive. It's power. So let them talk. Let them assume. Let them rewrite the story. You don't need to correct their version anymore. You're too busy living yours. You've already said everything that needed to be said. In silence, your silence changed everything. For them and for you. And if you're hearing this right now, it means you were never weak for being quiet. You were wise. You were evolving. You were becoming the peace that chaos can no longer touch. If this spoke to you, don't forget to breathe before you scroll. Let the message settle. Because sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is no move at all. If you want more reminders like this, stay close. Because here, we talk about healing in silence, loving without losing yourself, and walking away without anger. You're not cold. You're just calm. And calm is what finally made you free. You'll look back one day, not with anger, not with sadness, but with understanding. You'll realize that every time they tried to break you, they were only revealing how afraid they were of your strength. Because you were never loud, but you were powerful. You were never cruel, but you were clear. And the moment you became clear, their control disappeared. You won't need revenge. You won't need validation. You'll just smile quietly, knowing that peace became the closure you were searching for all along. They'll still talk sometimes about how you changed, how you went silent, how you became different. But that's what healing looks like. To those who never thought you'd find it, it looks like distance. It looks like calm. It looks like dignity they can't disturb anymore. Because silence doesn't just protect you, it transforms you. It teaches you patience. It teaches you to choose energy that feels safe. It teaches you that peace is not something you earn, it's something you reclaim. And once you do, you'll never let chaos feel like home again. There's a quiet kind of confidence that lives inside you now, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. It simply is. You walk differently. You speak slower. You smile softer. Because you've learned, not everything deserves a reaction, and not every storm deserves your rain. You learn that silence doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means everything is. Inside you. For you. You are not cold. You are not distant. You are healing in a language only peace can understand. And healing doesn't shout. It whispers. It restores. It reclaims. That's why they fear your silence. Because it's proof you found yourself again. And once you find yourself, you can't be controlled. You're no longer trying. to make noise in their world. You're building your own. A quiet, steady, beautiful life. That doesn't need chaos to feel alive. That's the kind of peace that makes toxic people disappear. Not because you push them out, but because they can't breathe. Where calm is the air. So keep choosing silence. Keep choosing calm. Keep choosing you. Because when you do, you don't just scare toxic people. You inspire healed ones. And that's the real power of your silence. You were never too quiet. You were just finally peaceful enough to hear yourself again. And in a world that confuses noise for power, your silence will always be the loudest thing in the room.